So what brings you guys out here?
All right, I'm very concerned about the flooding, and I found out that it's a policy of neglect, and I found that it was amplified by this conference, that they have intentional plans for this area that involve neglect.
Well, I put out the flyer to invite people to gather here to welcome attendees of the Cascadia Innovation Corridor Conference that's here today starting at noon here at the Semiahmoo Resort in Blaine, Washington. And basically, we're expecting Bill Gates to show up, so we made this sign to basically shame him and expose the fact that he's already been found guilty of vaccine murder in India. He's definitely not welcome back into that country. We're hoping America will wake up before the same happens here. And, just stop listening to Bill Gates. He brings a lot of money wherever he goes, but some things are more important than that, like our human values and, the value of life.
There has to be some pushback on this climate action stuff and decarbonization, which is going to cause mass death if they accelerate the decarbonization. And the whole thing is an attack on manufacturing, attack on production, attack on the physical means of the existence of our nation and other nations. And we're here in the Northwest, which includes British Columbia and Washington State and Oregon. We are the epicenter of a global genocidal mass depopulation movement that came to our area roughly. It came earlier, but it began to be implemented in the 90s. So we're now in this situation where they're now talking climate action. Climate action means cutting back carbon emissions on a massive scale. That's what climate action means, and that's enforced. Climate action. So this is very destructive. Already you're seeing what's happened in Europe with so-called climate action, and what's happening in Denmark, and what's happening in Canada, and they're pushing that here for this region. That's the first thing. The second thing is they're trying to transform this region into almost a separate nation called Cascadia. That's been in the making for a long time. So you have essentially relationships created between British Columbia and the two states, Oregon and Washington, such that essentially it becomes, in effect, a separate nation. And the Cascadia Innovation Corridor is the nascence of a separate nation, of a breakup of the United States. Although it may not be officially breaking up, it is a regional. It is a region that will have its own relative independence from this country. So it's transnational in that. It's also a private-public partnership, and this is what is dictating more and more policy to the various governments. The various governments are actually policies are coming under this rather than a national policy. So that's so they don't represent the nation anymore. They represent this cult, this green genocide cult, and the effects this has had on the environment is massive. The flooding, the forest fires are all much more intense because the ecology department have prevented the maintenance of the rivers and the maintenance of the forests, and this is now we're getting flooding every year and massive forest fires every year, and it's not because of climate change. They're saying it's climate change. No, it's their malfeasance in maintaining what we used to do. So this is driving people out of the rural areas, and they want to ban gasoline cars because to this day most people can still have gasoline cars. They want people to shift to electric cars, but that's not going to happen because people won't afford it. Only the people who have the funds can afford it. And besides, they're not creating the depth of electricity capacity to sustain a high electric car ownership. So that's the kind of situation you're looking at. And then basically they're creating these cities that are centered around financialization, IT, control of information, not production, not in physical production. And these are going to be very unsustainable as the world changes.
Myself, I longtime friend and collaborator of Mr. Glumaz over here, so he invited me out to show my support and to show of solidarity in numbers and whatnot, and moving counter against globalism, and with just this mega sustainable region that they want to do with BC, Oregon, and Washington.
I'm here to protest the Cascadia conference that's happening today because I think that a lot of the infrastructure made for the whole COVID-19 fiasco is now being flipped and going toward climate change. And climate change is really a method of control. Like if you have zero carbon, you have zero life. And so many people are brought into these conferences and looking for their share of the pie, because there is a lot of money being thrown at this, such as electric cars and all these things touted to be zero emissions, when in actuality the manufacturer of the electric car is making more emissions than a simple gas car. And there's lots of angles to it, but in general you have to stand up, because like this sign says that I didn't make, but somebody loaned me. This is climate change is helping you to build your own prison.
Well, I want to support my friends who are protesting the Cascadia event. As the signs say, it's unconstitutional and unelected, and we believe that it's also anti-human. And we hope to inspire a better future vision for the people than the kind of elements that are represented by the Cascadia affair. We think the people need a vision of a future that really is a future. We don't think that there are limits as described by the participants in the Cascadia affair. We disagree with these limits that have been published and discussed, and we think these issues should be scientifically re-examined on a broader basis. And we also hope for a future with higher literacy among the people and more scientific power to actually create the future as we go along. And with that, I ask that God help me and my friends, and also those involved with Cascadia, to do what needs to be done to create an improvement on the present situation, greater vision than what we have in front of us. Blessings always.